Hey you guys, I am super excited for our macrame project. Some people are going to make feathers, some people's may look more like leaves, but it's going to be beautiful no matter how yours turn out. I've got all my supplies laid out here so you can see what you need. You're going to need something to cut with. You're going to need something to brush with. Your main tool is going to be your fingers. I use either a rat-tailed comb and or a pet brush. I typically use the ones that have the very wiry bristles that don't have any coverings or anything on them. If you don't have a mat that's already measured for you in a grid like mine, grab you a ruler or some kind of tape measurer. You're going to need something to attach your feather to. So I suggest using a stick out of the yard. That's what I did here. You can also use a dowel. You can buy fancy wood. You can really do anything you want. At the end of our project, we're going to want to use a stiffening spray. And this will allow our project to keep its shape, especially if you live somewhere that's like ultra humid. And it makes it very nice when it's hanging. You're just going to lay down a piece of wax paper, get everything all combed out nicely, and then spray your stiffening quick and wait till the next day and it'll be perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about our thread. I'm using 2mm cotton thread. It's soft. It works great for an end result. If you want to use 3 or 4, it's really up to you. I think 2 is great for this project. We're going to make smaller feathers today. There's no reason to stress ourselves out trying to make gigantic feathers. But if you want to make gigantic feathers, you go for it. But for the purpose of this project and to briefly show you what you're going to do, this is what we're going to go with. I'm going to do my feathers in 3 different colors. I'm going to do black, rust, and khaki. I am going to filter in little bits of an off-white here and there so that it matches the string that I'm hanging them from. And ultimately, I will be using the same color to hang my whole entire project. I think it looks really nice when you're done. If you're going to make yours exactly like mine, then you need 12 4-inch pieces of all the colors that you're going to use. What that means is we're going to have a total of 16 pieces of thread that we dedicate to each feather. So if you find that you want to do all your feathers the same color, but you still want it to look like mine in the end, go ahead, cut 48 4-inch pieces of string and separate them into 3 piles. Now for one of the easiest parts, I don't even really measure here. I just get 3 cords that I know are more than long enough for what I need. Typically, that's going to mean that I end up with about 2 foot for a project like this, almost even 3 feet, which I know sounds so exaggerated, but just do it, of string that I fold in half. Whenever I'm making a tiered project like this, I will generally leave at least one of the pieces of string a good bit longer. Let's go ahead and attach our base strings to our stick or dowel, whatever it is we're using. I'm going to place the loop underneath my stick. It's very simple. I'm going to grab the tails of that loop and I'm going to feed them through the loop that's at the top of the stick. You just pull it tight and boom, you're attached. It's super easy. Let's go ahead and repeat this for all 3. And you can adjust them to exactly where you want them on your stick as we go. But just remember to leave enough room at the end pieces to attach the string that we're going to hang our project by. Now that we have all 3 strings where we want them, take a deep breath. It's time to start constructing our feathers. We're going to use 2 pieces of string at a time. I'm going to fold it in half and make a loop. Just like whenever we were attaching them to the stick, I'm going to place my loop underneath my strings on the left. I'm going to start out with my loop on my right side. I'm going to take my second piece of string, form it into a loop, and the tails are going to go inside of my loop that is already here and vice versa. So as you can see, I tuck them. It's a little bit hard to grab them at first, so your fingers get used to it. You're going to pull the tails through the loop on the left side and just pull them tight. It's that simple. To have a neat, project, when you're finished, you want to make sure that you get all of your knots about the same tension and just keep everything nice and straight as you go. You don't want your strings getting twisted or looped. It's going to happen, but don't worry, you can always straighten them out. For the next part of our feather, we're going to repeat the same process, except for this time, I'm going to place the loop on the left side of my left string. Grab your next piece, fold it in half, just like you did the other one. And then we're going to put our tails through the left loop, open up the right loop, and pull the tails through it as well. And then we'll just pull it tight. We're going to repeat this process, working from right to left, all the way down the string until we've done it 8 times. And that will make, in this case, approximately a 3.5 to 4 inch feather. If you forget which side you're on, don't worry, don't stress. You'll be able to tell because there will be a loop on the last side you did. So you'll just go to the opposite side of whichever that loop is on. You're only going to have a couple of white strands throughout this feather. There's really not a rhyme or reason to when I choose to add my white, but I do like to choose different points in each feather so that they don't look just alike. And sometimes instead of using 2 white strings together, you can split up and use a black string and a white string, but just know you'll have to repeat that process again later and just make it look how you like it. The good thing about it is it's really simple to untie them and redo something if you don't really like the way it looks, as long as you haven't already brushed out your strings. All right, now I'm just going to keep repeating this process for each feather. Here we go. All right, now that we have those put together, it's time to decide where we want them on our strings. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slide our strings up or down our main thread to get the feather into the position that we want. And this is where having one end with a little bit of an extra long string really comes in handy, It's a whole lot easier to cut some string shorter than it is to make it longer, right? Just work with them, loosen them. If you feel like they are just too bunched up, you can just pick it up and kind of flex it just a little bit, which you'll see me do here in just one moment. But the important thing is that you know once you brush them out, they're not going to really be overlapping one another for this project anyway. Some projects we don't mind if they overlap. So just take your time. There's no rush here. Make sure you have everything exactly where you want it. And then the next thing that we're going to do is make sure that the feathers stay where we put them. It's a super simple process. We're just going to tie a knot. I'm going to start on my left side. I'm going to grab the bottom of my strings once I'm 100% positive that feather is where I need it. And I'm just going to tie a knot, and I'm going to slide that knot up to meet the end of that feather and pull it nice and tight. And then I want you to repeat the same steps on the next two feathers. We are so close to being done. You've done so great making it this far. Don't feel bad if you have to pause or even take a break. Sometimes new projects can be super stressful, and this is supposed to be fun and make it where you end up with something beautiful that you can love at the end. We are so close to being done. Now we are going to start the ever tedious process of brushing out our feathers. It's not hard. It's just kind of tedious. You want to kind of start at your ends. I'm going to use my comb this time. But again, start at your ends. Make sure nothing's like tangled up. And just kind of work your way from the end towards the middle. I find that I get less tangles this way. But you do eventually want to be able to brush all the way from the beginning of the knots to the ends of your feathers without any resistance in your comb. At some point, you'll see me pick up my brush just to give it a good little fluff through it. It'll also remove some of the extra little fuzzies. Keep your brush clean as you go so you don't transfer colors from one thread to the next as you're brushing. It's really simple. Here we go. Okay, at this point, I want to go ahead and make the bottom tails blend in and be part of my feather. So I'm going to kind of brush everything at a downward angle to see about how long I need my tips to be. And then I'll trim them, I'll comb them, and I'll start making them more part of the body of my feather. Don't worry if everything looks a little bit crazy right now, because we're going to trim everything once this process is done. And it's going to look so great. Just trust the process and trust yourself. Before we do any cutting, I want to go ahead and attach a string to this puppy so we can make a way to hang it up. Just make sure you know exactly which way or direction you want your stick to face. I've already got mine adjusted pretty well. And you're going to cut a string right here. I use one that's about 14 inches long. And you're just going to wrap it around each end and tie it to itself. It's super easy. No need to get fancy, but if you want to cut a little bit of extra string and go for it, it's always good to add a little pizzazz here and there, right? Take this time to go ahead and pick up your project. Make sure it's going to hang in the direction that you want it to, that any curvature that's naturally in your stick is allowed for, and that everything is just going to hang exactly how you want it to once it's up on the wall. Apparently, I can't hold on to anything right now. So anyways, get it how you like it. And the next thing we're going to do is bring our feathers or our leaves, whichever you're making, to life and give them some shape. I feel like it's super important to get everything perfect right now, because once we've got them shaped and brushed perfectly, we're going to go ahead and add our spray starch and get those puppies set, because we're done. Once you've got everything resting back on your surface, you get it kind of ready. You want to keep tangles out of your feathers, but don't worry about anything being perfect. Sweep your other two feathers to the side, assuming right now that you're making more than one, and really concentrate on getting all the threads flowing in the direction that they need to, so that when you cut your feather, everything turns out great and lays nice. Don't be nervous. That's one of the reasons we're doing small feathers, is because if you don't like what you've done, it's super easy to just whip out another one real quick, you guys. Take a deep breath. Again, just get it all nice and combed how you like it, and then we'll get it cut. To cut my first feather with you guys, I'm going to use my rotary cutter. It totally is my preferred method, but don't worry, you can use scissors. As long as they're sharp fabric scissors, you'll be in business. But otherwise, I prefer a rotary cutter, though it can be a little bit easy to get out of your control. I start in a V motion and just very carefully work my way up to the top. If you're scared to make your curve at the top at first, don't worry, you can do this in steps. Use your comb, pull away your thread. Probably should have pulled my hair back for this, huh? And then you're going to wisp that out of the way, throw it away. I suggest doing that anyways, because otherwise your little bitty threads can get caught up in your project. And once they get starched there, it's a really big pain in the butt. But I do keep tweezers in my supplies just in case. Now go ahead and zoop up the left side. Again, at that kind of V cut there, you want your feather or your leaf to come to a very nice point. And just work your way up. I really should have changed my blade before I did this, but it didn't cross my mind. So now what we're going to do is just comb it out just a little bit, work on our shape, and just keep messing with it until you get it how you like it. The next one I'm going to cut with scissors, so you can see me do that too. But I am going to speed it up so it doesn't take you guys forever to be able to see this. on to feather number 2. Let's get some scissor action going. Very carefully, and I mean very carefully, pick up your feather and ever so gently hold it while you use your scissors to shape up those edges, very much in the same fashion that we did our rotary cutter. Very simple, voila. It may take a little bit more maneuvering, up and down, brushing, and just very careful movements and placements in order to get it right with your scissors. But you can do it, don't worry. Let's get this done. All right, here we are at the end of our project. Go ahead and carefully pick up your feathers. Lay out a piece of wax paper. I reuse mine, as you can see. Once your starch dries, it's still good to go. It's not sticky or anything. Get your feathers laid down exactly how you want them. And again, you want to make sure everything's brushed in the direction it needs to go and just shaped very, very nicely, because after this, we're going to spray our starch. We're going to leave them alone overnight and very carefully lift them in the morning, just in case they're stuck a tiny bit. You can go ahead and hold them up and spray them again if you want to, or they're ready to hang on your wall. Thank you so much for joining me today for our first macrame project. Please feel free to email me your finished project so I can see what you've made. I hope you found this to be fun and relaxing, and most of all, I hope you have made something very beautiful that you're most proud of. Love you guys. I'll see you soon.
Until next time, ignore the static. Ignore the static.